Broadcasting live from the Business RadioX studios in Phoenix, Arizona, it's time for Phoenix Business Radio, spotlighting the city's best businesses and the people who lead them.
Hello and welcome to Phoenix Business Radio, broadcasting live from Tempe, Arizona, right here at the Max 6 Entrepreneurial Center, where we help connect you with the right people and build businesses. And that is exactly what we're doing today with three dynamic professionals. We're going to talk about IT and career work development with the fantastic folks from Paradigm Solutions and ASU's AZNext program. So please welcome to the studio with me, Laura Hemenway, who is the founder and principal of Paradigm Solutions, LLC. Welcome.
Thank you, Karen. It's a pleasure to be here.
We've had this on the docket for a while. We had to get through the holiday.
We have. I'm glad that this day is finally here.
I am too. When I saw you walk in, I was thrilled to have you here in person today. And when we invited Laura to come on and join us, I said to her, who would you like to invite to make sure that we can have a dynamic conversation around technology, the needs that we have, of course, in the industry, which is ever vast and ever wide. And she could think of no better people to bring on besides AZNext program director, as well as program manager, Amy O'Reilly and Rob Buelow. Welcome, folks.
Good morning. Thank you for having us.
Yeah, very happy to be here today.
We're thrilled to have you both. So if we could have, Rob, if you wouldn't mind starting off by introducing yourself, tell us a little bit about your background. We have an hour for this segment, so don't be shy, all three of you. Tell us who you are, your background, and what led you to what you're doing today on behalf of AZNext and our workforce.
Sure. Well, again, I'm Rob Buelow, program director for AZNext here at ASU. And I actually joined ASU about 8 months ago at the start of the program. The actual grant was awarded early last year, and I joined shortly after that. Before that, I was actually in the aerospace industry for 20 plus years, where I worked in various roles doing everything from, customer support and management, program management, project management, process improvement, really the gamut. And after leaving aerospace, I decided that I really wanted to go in a completely different direction with my career. So like a lot of people, I was looking for something that maybe could be a little bit more fulfilling than, meeting that quarter end target, which was, my goal before then. So education and training are fields that I've really kind of always had a passion for. So, that was very high on my list of career directions to go. And ASU was high on my list of institutions to want to join. Being both an alumni and an AZ native, as well as looking at the growth and innovation that Dr. Crow has brought to the university, it's made a very enticing career destination. So looked into several roles that were available at the time, and this one really caught my attention because it checked all the boxes that I was looking for. And fortunately, my skills lined up with what they were looking for in the role. And so I ended up here and very happy to be here.
So thrilled. How great. And I love that this is your second act, it sounds like. This is an opportunity for you to design life and business the way that you want to after working so hard for many years, and have no doubt that you'll continue to work exceptionally hard on behalf of the organization, the people you serve. So congratulations on your new role.
Thank you.
Amy, how about you? Tell us about your background and how you landed with AZNext.
Absolutely. It's really funny because whenever Rob and I kind of discuss this, we kind of have mirror pathways. It feels like I, like many young adults that may be in a similar place to me, I studied something I was not actually that passionate about in my undergraduate career. I found my way into teaching first. So I actually taught English as a foreign language in a foreign country for 4 years after I graduated college. And I loved education. I loved working with people that were studying something they were passionate about. I came back to the US, and I am not an Arizona native, but I did find ASU as sort of a next step in my journey, just because the charter really is about making an impact, looking at an innovative approach to education, something that I was interested in, but maybe had not dove too deeply in my prior career phase. So I came to ASU and then was working in a few roles here at the university before I kind of found another step, which was sort of finding a way to close that gap from a formal education into a tactical career pathway. So someone who I experienced it myself, I went through a traditional education, but then found myself at the end of that education saying, this is not necessarily connecting to what I want to do on the job day to day. So this AZNext program was coming along. I connected to people I knew on the education side of the program. And they were like, oh, it's a really great idea. We're trying to work with industry very closely to figure out how we can make systems and different pathways, diverse approaches to getting people in the right place with the right training. And it was just a natural progression. So really funny to hear how Rob came from the industry side and I kind of came from the reverse direction. And we both met here in the same place.
I love it. And you've been on board about the same time?
Actually, I started about a year before with there was an initial grant that I joined with, and then we expanded, and that's when Rob was able to join our team. So it's a program that's been growing over a few years now amid a global pandemic. So very exciting space to be operating in.
Yeah, for sure. I look very much forward to hearing all about what's going on in tech, high tech, and mid-range level positions in addition to cybersecurity. Before we get into the meat of our conversation today, of course, we need to thank the woman who brought us all together, Laura Hemenway. Tell us a little bit about yourself, your background, and then about Paradigm Solutions.
Thank you, Karen. It's amazing how all three of us have very similar pathways to where we are today. I too started off in education, studying special ed. I had great aspirations to go forward and get my doctorate and build a charter school. I quickly learned that I was not satisfied with the school boards and the school systems, and I didn't feel that they addressed the students' needs properly. So I went into a different path where the test scores always told me I should go, which was in technology. I was supposed to be a mathematician or an engineer. So I went back to school and studied technology and started off as a developer. Quickly learned that that was great and fun, but my passion really was the business and the people and really trying to make their lives better and them happier with what they were doing and utilizing technology to do that. So that's where my passion still lies today. I work on significant business and technology transformation projects, and I just love working with the people. You're kind of messing with their worlds. They're changing what they're doing. And so to have that compassion and empathy to work through those big projects is a strong skill set of mine. And I still work a lot with children, but I do it in Title I schools with STEAM programs. And so I'm able to reach out to them as well. And in the mid-90s, I came across this wonderful gentleman by the name of Harvey Shrednick, who listened to me passionately describe one of my projects and invited me to speak to ASU's executive MBA program. And since then, I've had the pleasure of being invited back for several types of activities. So that's what brought us all here together, because I am also volunteering with the AZNext program and actually spoke to one of their classes last week.
Fantastic. I was in Queen Creek yesterday. We had a show with a couple of people from the Economic Development Department in Queen Creek. So I went out to have lunch with them yesterday just to see, because it's been so long since I've been out there. And on my way home, I passed this huge building, and it's a new free education, I believe it's high school. Maybe you're familiar with it, Advanced Career and Technology Center. And so I pulled over, took a picture of the sign. I have a 14-year-old who's going into high school next year. And I have two in their 20s. They've already, grown, gone, left the nest successfully, thankfully. And yet I want to make sure that my kiddo starts thinking about what's next for him now. Not that he has to have all the answers, right? He's talking engineering right now. But I don't know what the best choice is for him. So when I got home, I said, hey, are we set on the school that you're enrolled in and slated for? He's like, yes, why? And I said, I just saw this other opportunity and he's not ready to make a change. And I'll support that. I think it's just as important for him socially, right, to continue to stay with his pals. But all these alternative opportunities for us that are forcing us to take a look at education, right? K-12 and of course, higher ed as well. I would be remiss if I didn't mention Arizona Technology Council and Steve Zalstra. He and I co-host AZ TechCast together here once a month. And this idea of around apprenticeship and workforce development is top of consciousness all the time in every conversation we have. And Laura, you mentioned, STEM, of course, education, and part of what, if you don't already know, for our listeners and our guests for that matter, Arizona Technology Council also has a SciTech Institute, which is their foundation, and they're committed to K-12 STEM education as well. And we do their show, STEM Unplugged, here at Business RadioX as well with Dr. Babendor and Kelly Green. So you're in good company with us. Oh, and I'm an educator. Once upon a time, I taught third grade in Kyrene School District and was an assistant principal for years and went on to become the VP for Pinnacle Education and ran the several sites that we had around ASU for quite some time. So let's get into the meat of the conversation. I would love to have either Rob or Amy, or both of you for that matter, describe AZNext. We've hinted around it, but what is the partnership? It was started off as a grant. I think it's still in grant mode. Is that correct? Yeah. So ASU, AZNext, tell us a little bit about it, and both of you can play off of each other to give us the full picture.
Okay. Amy, do you want me to start out?
Yeah, go ahead.
Okay. So AZNext is actually short for the Arizona Workforce Accelerator Training Partnership for Next Generation Jobs. So now you know why we shortened it.
Right.
We are a U.S. Department of Labor sponsored program, and we're tasked with developing sustainable workforce training infrastructure through programs like internships, apprenticeships, train to hire programs, boot camps, and simulated work experiences. The idea is to create those talent solutions to meet the needs of the industry going forward. Our programs are both, non-college credit programs that could maybe lead to, instead of a degree, could potentially lead to an industry credential. But we also have programs that can lead to for-credit college. So we offer pathway into degrees for some folks who might be interested in doing that. The main areas of focus for us are in the fields of information systems, cybersecurity, and advanced manufacturing. The primary targets are those people that we want as part of our program are those people who are unemployed, underemployed, or needing to reskill. And we also have a special emphasis on those underrepresented communities out there, minorities, women, veterans. It's all tied into the goal of improving workplace diversity and economic opportunity for Arizona and, in fact, beyond to the whole country.
Well said. Amy, anything to add? That sounds like a real robust definition.
Yeah, no, I think Rob covered a lot of it. A huge thing of what we do is really making partnerships with the industry. We have advisory boards, we have organizations that are looking to either solve their own talent solutions or looking to, like Laura, contribute to these experiences, making it a robust, industry relevant, skills relevant space where we can develop this talent and these diverse pipelines that companies may not be able to access, or individuals may not be able to tap into these very traditionally rigorous and oftentimes expensive learning opportunities. So that's really where I think AZNext is shining. It's breaking down those barriers and building those partnerships to make it as relevant and timely as we can.
Tell me about the partnerships then a little bit more. I'm hearing a little bit about the stakeholders, right? So it's this program and the success of it is dependent on who? Educators, consultants, as well as business, small, medium, large businesses. Who else? Is the legislature need to be part of this as well? Who else?
Yes,
to be part
we have a very vast group. So we do work with the Arizona Commerce Authority, the Arizona Department of Economic Security, a lot of those entities that are in the state that are working in workforce already. And we're trying to see how we can fit in and enhance anything without, of course, stepping on any toes. We want to make sure we're fitting and not competing with any other programs that are in this space. But really, especially as Rob mentioned, apprenticeship is really my space, and that requires significant employer partner investment. So they need to, have a place for people to get that hands-on the job training. It's a earn while you learn model for apprenticeships and internships, where you're not only pausing your career to study, you're doing them simultaneously or sequentially to make sure that you're getting that knowledge while building your resume and your experiences. So partnerships abound. Rob, any other partners you want to toss out there while we're on?
Yeah, actually, we need to talk about the partners that are community-based organizations out there. Groups like the Black Chamber of Arizona, Chicanos por la Causa. We work with several CBOs out there to help us not only, help us with the outreach to let people know about our programs, but also, as pathways into, potentially a job seeking position with our industry partners. We actually have over 50 companies that are part of our advisory board that we work with to help us design the program so that they fit the skills that they need, as well as, our goal really is to get our participants into good paying jobs. Mm-hmm. That's really what we do. We don't train people. We get the people into good paying jobs.
Making those introductions, providing the opportunity for skill-based training, right? Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's fantastic. The difference between apprenticeship and internship, I'm not really clear. Can either of you shine a light on that for me?
Oh, yeah, that's a common question. So apprenticeship is actually a very interesting model. It's one that's been around for a very long time. I'm sure a lot of people associate apprenticeship with the trades. I have a cousin who is an elevator repair technician, and he had a 5-year apprenticeship to get his certification training, and now he's like locked into an amazing position. But that's a very traditional space for apprenticeships. And the federal government is very interested in using that model that has over 95% retention or carryover into full-time positions. They're trying to figure out the best way to apply that model with the mentorship and all these features into these really high need spaces like tech and advanced manufacturing. Other areas like healthcare are also looking at these models. So the main thing with apprenticeship is that whereas an internship is traditionally housed within an educational space. So the 4-credit model, a university or college situation where you're maybe getting credit for the experience. It may not be paid. I hope they are paid, but they may not always have that paid component. Internships are pretty flexible with the hourly requirement, or maybe may not have clear definitions of what that work experience is for the individual. Whereas an apprenticeship, by the federal definition, there are 5 hallmarks of apprenticeship. So there are regulations that we must adhere to, it must be a paid experience, as I said, at least minimum wage, scaling up as they develop those skills. It needs to have mentorship from the employer or from the training provider. There must be that mentor to mentee relationship where the person who is learning the skills can go to someone with senior experience to ask for that assistance. There must be clearly identified competencies to learn in their learning component as well as on the job learning. So there's milestones built in. It's basically for every program we build in the apprenticeship model, there's basically a checklist and progress bar to see, are you progressing towards that full competency for this position? And then finally, of course, it has to have equal opportunity for all these positions. So that's what every apprenticeship is defined by. The space is a bit, you can define an internship as an apprenticeship if you modify it slightly or vice versa. So it's really just a really exciting and successful model that we're trying to bring into this high-tech space and see the fruits of how this can help companies and individuals grow.
Mm-hmm. Very good. Thank you for that definition. Laura, I'm curious, when you hear your colleagues speak here, what's exciting to you about AZNext? You mentioned how you kind of came to the program, but what keeps you coming back for more as a volunteer, and where do you see this going from what you've seen in the world of technology?
When I first heard about the AZNext program, I immediately just was so excited, and I said, what can I do to help? And dealing a lot with 4th graders in Title I schools and STEM programs, I'm there to motivate them and get them excited in STEM careers. But their eyes kind of glaze over when they think, oh my gosh, in 6 years from now, I maybe have to go to school for another 4 years. And that isn't in their line of sight. They cannot even imagine that 4-year commitment nor the monetary demands of it. And something like this is when I can say, hey, you know what? Just that, ASU has all these other reach out programs. So, get ASU to come to campus and kind of get them excited about, the robots and other things that are going on. So keep them engaged. But in the time it takes to maybe go to summer school or 1 semester of school, they can get credentialed or get an apprenticeship or an internship and embark on a STEM career. That's something they can get their sights on and be encouraged to get to that goal. So I found it as something incredibly attainable for the children. And I think it's just a wonderful opportunity for the community at large, as they mentioned, dealing with the underserved in our community.
Love it. You mentioned you volunteered, so any of you can speak to this. Is the program, how heavily reliant on volunteers is the program, and how do different individuals and organizations show up in that space to volunteer? So, of course, our listeners are our business owners and executive leaders. How do they get involved? How do you encourage anybody to get involved, and specifically on the volunteer level?
Well, as Laura mentioned, a big part of what we want to do with AZNext is, we not only want to train the technical skills that the student would need to succeed in the workforce, but we're also looking to give them as much real world experience as possible. And one of the ways we do that is we work with our industry partners to involve them in the actual training and education programs. As Laura mentioned, she actually volunteered to be a guest lecturer at one of our business analysis classes recently. And the idea behind that, again, is to give these students a real example of what would my work life look like in this type of a role. And that's exactly what Laura and our other industry volunteers can bring in to the classes and to our participants.
That mentorship component, if there is like any professional in this space who would like to talk to someone who's just starting out, who may have questions, may not know what the 5-10-year scope of working in these spaces looks like, we could have coffee chats where we bring people in, sit down with some current students or recent completers of programs, and just make it a very casual setting for them to get more context around what this space looks like from a professional perspective. Things like that. Or beyond that, of course, we have like hiring fairs, networking events. But really, I think that in the classroom experience that Rob was talking about is extremely impactful as a motivating tool for people who may be a little intimidated about getting into tech, or they may just be learning these skills for the first time or first time in a long time, updating their skills. It's really amazing to have those industry professionals there and contributing to framing this experience in the real world.
And thank you. If I might add to that, in speaking with the class last week, it was amazing 2-hour conversation with them. I think almost all of them have reached out to me in LinkedIn, and we're in LinkedIn discussions right now. So I was just going to chat with you all about, we do need to have a coffee or something with that, because a lot of the conversation went into women in STEM careers. And so we've had significant conversations so far with some of the students regarding that. And so I need to talk with you all about that.
Absolutely. We're on board.
Amy, Rob, about how we maybe coordinate that a bit, because there was a great deal of follow-up.
Well, you mentioned the hope that you are creating for people and that pathway of opportunity, right? I love what Rob said as well around it's not just the technical skills, it's giving them the opportunity to be a well-rounded individual. That really resonates well with what Kelly Green and Dr. Babendor do with the SciTech Institute. When I first started producing the shows for them, I was making the assumption let's just get those kids who are tech savvy, show an interest in science and math, that sort of thing, and let's bring them down the path. And they corrected me and they said, yes, of course, we want those kids, and we want to open this up to all kiddos who may not know, to what Laura had said earlier, they don't know what's available to them, right? They may come from a home, even if they are at the college level, they may come from a home where parents haven't gone to college, or they're working so hard just to get food on the table and keep a roof over their head, that this individual, 12 to 22, is kind of on their own trying to figure out the way. And so we need to really make sure that we're offering opportunities and the hope and the really giving them the vision of what's possible, and taking their hand along the way and teaching them how to do it, right? I love this. It's very, again, synonymous with everything that I hear from all the different industries that we're working with. It's funny, we had, talking about trades, let's see, the Marine Corps Scholarship Foundation, we were doing a show with them for a while. And we had some gentlemen from the CEO from Bravada Yachts, which is a local freshwater yacht company right here in Arizona, doing great things. He's a Marine vet. And then a gentleman from Semper Fi Heating and Cooling, and another, I think, ABC pool service where they build and fix pools. And these gentlemen have these incredible stories. I think two of them are ASU graduates as well. What they were saying, and we really spent a lot of time in that conversation, was the lack of skilled tradesmen and the lack of higher tech education, folks ready for the workforce. And so clearly there's a need, right? Not only in trade, but also in advanced manufacturing and technology as well. Let's back up and touch a little bit on what Laura just mentioned around women in technology. You've been in the industry for how long now? I don't want to date you, but I mean,
it's mind numbing. It spans 5 decades, actually. It's
Okay.
quite mind numbing. Yes.
And what have you seen? Can you speak to that a little bit about what you've noticed about, the women in technology? Are we seeing more women in these positions? What else can we be doing? And again, Amy and Rob, I would love for you to speak to that as well, because Rob, coming from the profession that you have, I'm sure you've seen a change as well.
Absolutely, yes.
That is such a loaded question.
We've got
it's
time.
Obviously, when I started in technology, I was one of hundreds of. I was one. There's only a female in a sea full of men, basically, and it was quite a struggle, to be heard and acknowledged. But regardless of that, I still persevered, and I did quite well. Throughout the years, the prevalence of women has increased to some degree. As you know, we're still struggling to get on the board and CIOs and C-suite and that. It's mind-boggling that it's still such a struggle, but it still is. COVID took it caused a big hit in what's being called the mass resignation. A good portion of that were women in the STEM arena.
Oh, really?
Yes.
I wasn't aware of that.
There's been a lot of conversation about that, about how to re-engage them and bring them back in.
Do we know why?
What had happened, and I was just reading up again on this yesterday. I was trying to say, okay, why did this happen? Is that for a very long time, companies could just really press people to work, very hard, very long hours, be highly stressed. And what COVID did was everybody was working from home. You added the stress of perhaps family or other responsibilities, and everybody just was able to take a step back and take a hard look at their life. And they were saying, I don't think so. And so they stepped away for a while. Now, whether they're just gone for a couple of years and perhaps re-engage more in a consulting role or a role where they can manage their own time and kind of manage their own path as opposed to being in a corporate hand, hopefully we'll see that.
Yeah.
But it did take COVID did a big hit. Yeah.
Work-life balance.
Work-life balance.
And maybe I even hate that phrase because I don't think it's a balance. I think it's a work-life blend.
Yes.
And we were presented with the opportunity to take a step back. And this great resignation still baffles me.
Yes.
But here we are. Rob, Amy, any thoughts that you want to add to what Laura's sharing with us?
I would say that I would definitely agree with Laura. It seemed like during the pandemic, childcare became so schools were closed, daycares were closed. It was so hard for families to adjust to these types of circumstances that previously, you can go to your normal 9 to 5 and come home, pick up the kids, and you're totally fine. And even I've heard of families that were dealing with caring for the elderly, or a lot of these pressures where hospitals or care facilities were no longer able to support people during that time. It fell on these working professionals, both parents or both children in that case. And that's where, if during the Great Resignation, talent is so important to companies. It's expensive. It's, the culture is built around your talent, and having, a more flexible or innovative way to get people engaged with work. If it is maybe shifting schedules or looking at remote training or different types of pathways, that may be the solution. And that's something that we're definitely trying to get from our partners on both sides. Those workers looking to reskill, maybe they're looking to change careers, or companies who saying, we're noticing a gap here, looking at creative ways to meet everyone in that balance place. I love that, the idea of the blend rather than the balance, and finding ways to answer the needs of the employee as well as the company to try to make that sustainable over time.
And to add to that a little bit, I think what employers have learned through the COVID experience is that their employees can be much more productive given freedom. So you determine your own work schedule. You take the breaks when you need to, and you can still get a lot done, if not more done, when someone feels that they have that freedom and they're not having to sit at a desk or in an office from 8 to 5. If they're working at midnight or 2 in the morning or however it works for them, then that's how the work gets done. And employers are now acknowledging that that is okay.
It's interesting because Daryl and I, he's our producer. He's been with me for just over 7 months. We've had this conversation where I came into the relationship with a mindset that like this is what this looks like. And we've had to massage it out to find ways for it to be mutually beneficial, right? To have that autonomy and that trust. He cares for the business as much as I do, and yet he's had to find a way and help me remember, like, hey, I'm an individual, right? And you've got me here, and I need to have an opportunity to find that blend in my life as well. Yeah, it really speaks volumes to how we're all being called to shift and take a look at how do we lead, how do we show up to be successful, how do we take care of the needs that we have individually, personally, and as a family and a community member, and keep it all, juggling it in the air at the same time in the middle of a pandemic that continues to have no end. Rob, I would love to hear from you as well on any of these topics that we're discussing. What are your thinking when you hear us as well?
I think, listening to everybody, one thing I might want to add is I think that there could be a bit of a silver lining that came out of COVID in the fact that I think that it has made companies think more about their diversity in their workforce. And I think it came about because of the Great Resignation, because it's teaching the companies that, again, the workforce is valuable. They need to nurture it. They need to, strengthen it. And I think looking at that looking at diversity in a really detailed way is something that is happening now more at companies. And we all agree that a diverse workforce is a strong workforce. So again, that's one of the reasons I think that that's such a big part of what we're trying to do with AZNext.
I love it. I'll speak to an experience that, again, Daryl and I had with recently at a big event here that involved business owners, leaders, and that sort of thing. And our speaker, I think there was 250, happened to be the governor. And he was speaking really around these very conversations that we're having. And Daryl and I happened to be at the back of the room just where we were sitting at our breakfast table. And as he spoke about diversity and inclusion, we leaned over and kind of shrugged our shoulders, nothing against what the governor said that was wrong, but the sea of heads ahead of us all looked the same.
Mm-hmm.
And so we have a lot. I'm thrilled that we're all talking about it. I know that organizations and educational institutes and both private and publicly held businesses, we're all starting to not only talk about it, but we're also making a commitment to find ways to be more inclusive. And and some people will say, well, how do you, in fact, I sit on a board. And we have a couple board seats open, and I adore the president. She's very good at what she does, but she said, hey, this is an opportunity for us to check the box and get, some diverse representation in here. And then the next thing she said is, I know it's going to be hard. And I was cringing. It was a Zoom meeting. And again, I adore her and we're doing great things, but I had to, get off mute and just say, hey, I want to speak up real quick. And I don't mean to put you on blast, but we need to stop saying it's hard. And we need to say that this is not about checking the box. This is not, this is really around making a solid commitment to put ourselves out in new and different organizations and in different communities to seek the talent and to have the conversations and broaden our network so that it's not hard. It's just what we know and what we do. So I'd love to hear from any of you on that.
I'm glad you said that. Throughout my career, I was in the generations of affirmative action. And I deliberately did not put myself in that bucket. I did not play the I am woman, I am female card ever. It was I am who I am. These are my skill sets. This is what I offer. Only recently have I started saying a woman-owned company to force the DEI conversation.
Mhm.
I don't want to say I am woman, hear me roar, but I want to make them aware that, yeah, Paradigm Solutions has been around for over 20 years, highly successful, working with Fortune 5, Fortune 10 companies. And, oh yeah, I happen to be woman-owned. And, I just wanted to add
I
that
think
that comment
it's
on that.
important.
I never played the card, but I'm doing it now because it's important that people know that there's very successful companies out there that are founded and run by women.
Mhm.
I love that. And it's something we've also experienced where, like you said, the conversation is happening. People are acknowledging probably now more than previous years with the Great Resignation and everything else going on. But having a vessel or a pathway like AZNext, where we're now approaching companies and saying, like, you're talking about this being a problem, we can help build out that network. And it is interesting, like you mentioned, sometimes that causes great movement and great progress, but other times it gets bogged down into, ooh, this does take some elbow grease. You have to put the time in, you have to build the systems, and you have to make sure you're being aware of that diverse network and what maybe needs may vary in different spaces. And can we find small businesses that are women owned, are minority owned, and really use this to empower them in a way? Or are there different routes we can take? So I'm really happy to hear that people are talking about it. And now we are trying our best to get that action to say, and now, ... What can we do about it?
And I think that this is a great opportunity because talent is scarce right now. People are desperate to find good talent out there. So I think it's actually opening them up to possibilities they hadn't considered before. And again, I think that's going to be a great entryway in for, a lot of people who may not have been considered before. They're now going to have that opportunity.
Agreed. I'd love to hear about the difference between building talent over buying talent. So that's one of the questions that Amy had kind of submitted. And are you okay maybe
Oh, yeah.
starting off that conversation for us?
And I can't claim that as I did not create that
that's
phrase.
okay.
I
You don't
heard
have
it
to.
I just thought it was so
That's a powerful segue
because-
for us.
Absolutely, because a lot of that came to me from, I was in a discussion with the Department of Labor about sort of what's going on in the spaces, especially around those work-based learning experiences. And they were giving some data, which I don't recall, I apologize, how competition between companies is actually hurting the workforce pipeline. Because, say, looking at Arizona in particular, we have so many people that go through the traditional learning system, they get skilled up, and then there is a bit of a brain drain. People may look at California, they may look at New York, they may leave the economy in their local area, and companies are basically bidding against each other to recruit talent, to scout talent from places that they know they have skills already. Say, oh, rather than training someone myself, I'm just going to offer them a good salary, I'm going to buy this talent, bring them to my team, that's a solid method for getting a really strong team together. But when you look at it, the cost of training someone is actually pretty significant. But if you do it in a sustainable way over time, you're building that talent in-house, you're getting someone into your company's culture. If you have that mentorship component, you're building that brain transfer of experience with the systems you're using in your organization and any connections that may bring. That building model is actually more economically impactful to the organization and the local community over time, because you're able to pull people from the local area. They have family here, they have connections here. You're not asking them to uproot their life and relocate. You're really feeding your own local economy and the systems that are already in place. So it is just a different way, a different perspective to look at how you get that talent to your organization, rather than, having a scarce pool of resources that everyone's fighting over. Why not reinvest in that resource and build people up from different areas to sustain yourself and the community overall?
And if I might add to that, about the building part of it, when I work on major initiatives, I'm always looking for what I call the superstars, because there's always people in the team or in the organization that have so much potential. And so I find them, I nurture them, I mentor them, and I ensure that they have the additional skills so that they can take on more responsibility within the organization and add value to the new initiative. So I always find them; they're there. So it's very exciting to be able to add that value
I
as
can
well.
see you keeping your eye out for it, and maybe not the shining star that is evident and obvious, but
Right.
maybe somebody who could use some of that encouragement, has the skill set, but just a little bit of nurturing along the way. Can you speak a little bit more about Paradigm Solutions and the kinds of projects and the folks that you work with?
Sure. So Paradigm Solutions is a consultancy based here in the Valley,
Woman
and
owned.
woman owned. I just say that card now. I can't believe I'm doing that. But it's necessary. And I have dedicated my entire career to working, like I said, on business and technology transformation projects. So companies that are either smaller, that are trying to grow, get themselves ready for an IPO or a merger, or just have grown so fast that their processes and their data is just a big quagmire and a big bowl of spaghetti, and they need somebody to come in and just try to right the ship and get the right processes and software and practices put in place. So I work with projects like that. Here in the Valley, I've worked with people like Dignity Health, APS, SRP, Freeport McMoran, globally, companies like QVC. That was a fun one. And then Becky's like a Freddie Mac and Summa Health, et cetera. So kind of all over the board. So are my clients. And it's always the same thing. Big initiatives to make things a lot better.
I love it. That's an impressive list of clients.
Mhm.
Fantastic. Amy, you said something earlier, and now I'm failing to remember what it was, but it prompted another question for me. What I'm hearing throughout our conversation is a theme around many different members of our community. Again, this could be Metro Phoenix, Arizona, the country, the world, doesn't matter. We're all coming together saying that we have talented people. We have people who want to work and they need opportunities. And you're obviously the organization that you're working for and on behalf of is finding streamlined ways to make that happen. Successful, proven methods. This is, I just remember what Amy had said earlier. Quite a bit earlier in our conversation, you were talking about the apprenticeship program specifically, but I think AZNext clearly runs this way anyway under Rob's tutelage. Tracking. We cannot measure what we don't track, right?
Mhm.
And so whatever aspects of this program, I'm hearing that there is a methodology, there's systems, there's structures, there's way to measure it so that we can really succeed, whether it's the individual in an apprenticeship or internship, or it's a guest speaker coming in and offering suggestions and making those connections. Everything that you're doing has become a study and an
Mhm.
opportunity to say, hey, here's where we started and here's where we're going. So any thoughts around that? I think for me, this again is thematic with Arizona Commerce Authority and everything that they're doing in AZ Tech Council. Everything is tracked and measurable. Thoughts with that? I'm right, I'm wrong, crazy.
No, I think you're absolutely right. And as far as what we're doing with AZNext for again tracking our performance, we actually have a very set of defined metrics that the Department of Labor, since we are a U.S. Department of Labor grant,
Yep.
they require us to, ensure, track how many people are going through our various programs. We're tracking them after they complete these programs to find out, how has their career progressed? Are they getting the new positions, the better positions? Are they getting the higher salaries? So all of that is part of the metrics that we put together and we track on all of our participants. Amy, I don't know if there's anything else you can add as far as the apprenticeship side, that there might be something unique there.
Yeah, well, also just credentialing. So we know that, especially for non-traditional education, or in addition to traditional education, getting credentials that are industry recognized is so important and valuable to someone being able to succeed on their job, or also be they can go to a different position if they find a different fit. So credentialing is something we also track, what kind of credentials we can train towards, when they're achieving those credentials, additional support for that as well.
Yeah, very good point. I mean, everything that we are designing right now is usually built around some sort of an industry recognized credential. And that I think is going to be extremely valuable for our participants going forward, because it's something that they'll be able to keep and put on their resume, throughout their entire career. Mm-hmm. So it's a big part of what we want to do.
Love it. On that note, Amy, I know it would be important for our listeners, and actually all of you can pipe in as well. What should a company expect when they're developing a workforce development program? I mean, we've kind of hinted around it, but what are some of the things that they really need to expect and to consider?
Absolutely. So again, AZNext, we do a lot of types of programs. So really, if a company is interested in either tapping into an existing program that we're running, that's a very quick process. We just kind of explain the program, any obligations, see what they're looking to gain out of it. If they're looking to get those interviews with candidates, if they're looking to see profiles, resumes, if they're looking to give an on-the-job experience, we can work that out pretty quickly. If a company has specific training, for example, if a company has one technology that they're saying, I'm not seeing talent with this one technology, that's something that might take a bit more time, but we are able with our program to develop a training system for that specific technology if it is not currently offered in the market. So bringing the pain points to the table, letting us know expectations up front with the company, what talent solutions or what needs they have if they are looking to diversify their talent pipeline. We, of course, want to see how we can help with that, but also having that expectation that, we're built for community enhancement. We are looking for these partners that really can get us to our goal of getting people on the path or in these successful jobs. So making sure that they're tapping in, but also contributing either through volunteering in the program to offer some training and insights, or providing those interviews and jobs at the end. That would be ideal. But definitely as part of a program, we ask a lot of questions. We have a great conversation and really build out what kind of a solution we can craft with all the pieces and entities in place. Rob, anything to add there?
Yeah, if I can really add, and I think one of the things we haven't really mentioned yet is the fact that we're backed by Arizona State University, which has a tremendous library of materials, fantastic faculty that we work with across the entire university. We work with people from our Fulton Engineering School, our New College of Liberal Arts. All of these people are involved in these programs that we're putting together. And that's a really powerful tool for putting these programs together, because in a lot of cases, we have the material that's needed as far as the technical skills already developed. It's already set up in a class or a module. And all we really need to do is tweak it a little bit to, meet a particular employer's requirements. And we can get a program up and running, in 30 to 90 days, depending on how complex it is.
Rob, how much does AZNext cost?
To our participants, nothing. Our grant covers all participant costs. Wow. In fact, it's a requirement of our grant. For our industry partners who are looking for specific, training programs, we are working to make it as low cost as possible. Again, our grant funds cover the majority of the training that's required. And so that's another, I think, great benefit to our employer partners, is that we do offer a low cost option for them for their training requirements.
Mm-hmm. Fantastic. And then if you'll finish up with telling us who can participate in AZNext. So again, for our listeners, they know who they can send in your direction.
It's really simple. And I do need to caveat this, that there may be certain requirements for certain classes, but the basic requirements to be part of AZNext is you have to be 17 years or older. You have to have a high school diploma or a GED. You need to be unemployed, underemployed, or looking to reskill. And you have to be eligible to work in the U.S. That's it. Those are the basic requirements.
Very, very impressive. That needs to be on a billboard. Every billboard along 17, the 202, the 101, the 10.
Exactly.
I love it. Wow. This has been a fantastic conversation. I'm so grateful for the education and the opportunity to learn from each of you today. As we kind of close out our program, I would love to hear from each of you, and I want to start with Laura if I can. If you would describe a moment that defined your success. Well, I always love kind of the human interest part of our conversation. We started off with each of your backgrounds, but I would love for each of you to give us an example, a moment in time, whatever comes to you first, personally and professionally, that really has helped to define your success. I mean, you've obviously shared an impressive list of clients and the long-term success of Paradigm Solutions, but is there a moment that you can think of that you'd love to share with us?
Yes. I was working on a long-term project in the middle of Ohio. Was gone away from home 2 weeks at a time. Very hard, tough project. Having to actually re-engineer 5 years of just not good. I'll just put it as not good. And it was very stressful on everyone involved, all the employees having to rethink their processes and how they thought about their data. And everybody was out of their comfort zone. It was just very, very difficult, but it had to be done. And I was sitting in the cafeteria one day with the recruiters in the HR department, and the president of the hospital walked across the cafeteria to our table. And I had happened to have met him before at other events. And he said, "I'm glad to see you here today, Laura." He goes, "I want to thank you for everything you're doing for us." That today still makes me cry when I think about that moment, because I thought about how hard it was on everybody to accomplish this, and for him to make that effort. And I was happy to say that we were very successful in what we did, to the point that as soon as we finished it, they bought another hospital and we had to merge them in. And we were able to do that very readily because of all of the work that everyone had done. So I think that pretty much covers it.
I love
Yeah.
it. Thank you for sharing that. Amy and Rob, how about each of you?
Yeah, sure. I'll hop in before. Sorry, Rob, I cut you off. I would say one of the most amazing moments so far in this experience has been one of our first employer partners was a small local company, and they had never looked at an apprenticeship as a model. They had done a traditional, like, right before someone graduates, we're going to see what they got, interview, hire. So we actually built out, and it was a learning experience for us because we were also figuring out our model, our processes, and they were very helpful in helping us refine that process. And we did get, we started with a pilot of one. So one individual that really hit all the check boxes they were looking for, got him on the job, got him mentoring, and we did our regular check-in. Like about 6 months later, we're just like, we heard he was on track last time. How's he doing? Like, oh, he's leading meetings now. He's hopped into it. They're giving him, before he was working on a team, now he's actually leading a small team. Like, the progression they had seen in even that short amount of time was just, they were amazed. And they were like, I can't believe he's taking to it so well. The structure we're providing him is really helping him thrive. And just hearing that from such a short window of time, and he's still with that company, that apprentice, he's going into his second year now, actually. And that was just such an amazing, like, oh, all of this is actually, we're doing the thing we wanted to do. So that was just the first instance of, wow, that really has helped someone thrive. Yeah.
Yeah. Excellent. Right. Thank you for sharing. Rob.
I'd have to say, it's interesting. Coming into this role 8 months ago, walking in the door, this was a totally new experience for me. I had no idea how we were going to do all these things that we were supposed to be doing for this. So to be able to walk in with that clean slate, to build these programs up, and the whole project really from scratch has been tremendously fulfilling. But I think probably the best thing that's happened so far is that in November, we launched our very first cohort for our business analysis program. That was a tremendous high. We were like, yes, we did it. We got a program going. But even better than that, I actually just recently heard that one of the members of that cohort in that program has actually already landed a role, and it was directly related to the experience they gained through the program. So that was even a greater high for me. And just looking forward to that happening a whole bunch more times going forward.
Fantastic.
That's exciting.
I can see why Laura said, when we said we would love to have you on with us and highlight Paradigm Solutions and all the great work you're doing on behalf of technology and companies and helping them fix them up, get them on the straight and narrow, that she thought to bring the team at AZNext. So I'm very grateful for your time this morning. As we close up the segment, could each of you, again, share your name and where we can find you? A website? Are you on LinkedIn? If our listeners here want to stay in touch with you, of course, we want to give them the opportunity to do that and make it super easy. So Laura, could you start for us?
Yes, I'm Laura Hemenway, founder and principal of Paradigm Solutions. You can find me on LinkedIn or my website, www.paradigmaz.com.
Yes, and it's Hemenway, Hemenway,
Correct.
instead of Hemming with an ing.
I would be writing some fabulous novels.
Yes,
True.
all in time. I have no doubt that there. Have you written a book yet?
No, I need to.
I was just going to say,
I would definitely read it.
Right? I'm ready to read it. So just let us know when you have that book ready for us. All right, Amy, and then Rob.
Sure. Amy O'Reilly. I'm project manager on AZNext. And we actually do have a couple websites. I am on LinkedIn, but wcarey.asu.edu/AZNext is our ASU hosted website. And I'll pass it over to Rob.
Hi, I'm Rob Buelow, program director for AZNext. And you can reach us at aznext@asu.edu as far as our email address. And the other website that we have is aznext.pipelineaz.com. That's our main landing page. It actually outlines a lot of the programs that we're currently offering and how to get involved.
Excellent. I hope you've had as much fun as I have today getting to know a little bit more about each of you and your program. Again, thank you for being with us. This is Karen Nowicki with Business RadioX right here at Mac 6 Entrepreneurial Center in Tempe, Arizona. Some media leans left, some lean right, and we lean business. Until next time, I'm Karen Nowicki. Thanks for listening.